Hey, it's showtime. It's Friday. I'm Marshall Atkinson,
I'm Alan Howe from Easy Way Systems.
and welcome to Q&A with Alan and Marshall. And I'm wearing my Friday shirt, right? I feel like I should be in the pool with a margarita. It's been such a big week for me, and I'm happy to be in such a celebratory mood, Alan. It's just, what a week. Woo!
It has been a great week, and I'm kind of celebrating. I am in, just telling Marshall, I'm in like Sandlot Sports. The guys have been on here and been in the shirt lab. I just realized I have their hat, their shirt, one of their shirts on. I am up in northern Michigan at our cottage, just relaxing. It's been a great week. There's been a lot of cool stuff. Almost like Marshall, I feel like we can breathe. There's a little bit of light in the end of the tunnel. And we were talking, I said, that light is bright because it was so dark.
Yeah, right.
But I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, and if you want to know why Alan looks like he's at the crazy bottom of a pixel well, it's because this is where he is. Alan is at Lake Ogama, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Ogama. Yep.
Right. Right. So if you look over on the left where that little bulb thing is, right south of that, he's on Pontiac Avenue at his lake house, hanging out. He's on a hot spot at the cottage.
And it's not right on the lake. It's a block off of it. And it's a cool place. It's not mine. My brother and I are the ones who are listed on it. And it's one of those places when I was 9 years old, my mother and father bought this tiny little cabin. And I've been coming up here since I was 9. My brother, my youngest brother, who I respect so much, him and his wife, he is a undersheriff for the county. He's out there on the first responders. But this is the legacy of our family and stuff. So it gets left to my nephews. And for me, I was telling Marshall, this is places where growing up in Metro Detroit, I breathe, I relax. This is where I learned to fish. This is where I learned to hunt, and things change, but it's good change. So it's still a good place.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. And, my family has a similar spot, which is in Alligator Point, Florida, which is just south of Tallahassee. And my grandfather bought an old Army barracks and converted it into a beach house. And I grew up there. Every summer we would, no matter where we were living, as soon as school was out, we'd hop in the station wagon, and my parents would drive me and my 4 brothers down to the beach, and we would live there the entire summer. So I'd run around just with a pair of bathing suit on, right? And we would be fishing for sharks with hot dogs on the John boat, or building sandcastles or whatever. And I'm sure it's funny that we have a similar kind of a thing, right? You're in a lake cottage, right? And then I've got a beach thing. So that's kind of cool. So
yep. I'm looking at the comments.
Right. So Keith says, good morning. And Dan says, are you fishing? Right.
I did go fishing, Dan. I only caught a couple tiny little bass and one little hammer handle pike. So unlike Marshall, we don't have alligators here.
Alligators in Michigan, I guess, are at the zoo, right?
They're called pike. They're like freshwater barracuda. But you know what, Dan? A day on the water catching just a couple fish it's hard to beat in Michigan this time of the year. So Dan's on the west side of the state of Michigan, which is actually, I will admit, it is just more gorgeous. It is a gorgeous part of the state. So
yeah, and he did such a good job with me helping out yesterday with that silicone ink little interview I did. And if you haven't seen it, in the Atkinson Consulting page right here, just scroll down and take a look at that later. Not now, because I want you to participate with this, but later today. Check that out, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Dan, for that.
It was great, and I teased Dan, and Marshall mentioned it, I guess, yesterday. I teased him that Dan is the silicone ink whisper, but I went back, I listened to parts of it live, and I went back last night and listened to the whole thing, and we are all in an area of ever learning. So thank you, Dan, for sharing. It was incredible.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if you're joining us, remember this is a Q&A show. So as much as we love saying good morning, hey, how I'm here, this is all about questions, right? So we want you to type in your question so we can help. That's the reason we're having this, okay? And so to get things going, our first topic today is everybody's opening, and there's a lot of craziness going on right now with the industry and civil unrest and PPP loans. There's just a mixed bag of nuttiness right now, I think. And I don't want to get into the political, so please don't start that. But so we kind of want to just frame this. So if you're opening or have opened, or I've been talking with a lot of shops this week, and they've opened, they've taken the loan, but there just isn't quite enough sales, and they're already talking about laying people off again, which is such a just heartbreaking to hear, right? So I want to kind of just frame this up. Please leave a comment about what you're doing. What are you seeing where you live? And please put in where you live, right? So Alan, what are your thoughts on this right now?
Well, I've talked, I was just, like I said, in this little town, West Branch. I went there, and there are places opening up. I went in and got coffee. God forbid I make it here in the kitchen. But I went up in the town, I got coffee. And I was talking to a guy. There was a new restaurant. He said he opened it in October, and he was setting chairs outside. They do takeout. He's excited. Here in Michigan, restaurants get to open 50% capacity on Monday, and he's excited. And I was thinking, we were talking. He was telling me about printing his to-go menus that he ordered them. They've been on hold because the people that are printing them weren't open and stuff. And I didn't say I found that weird. But
he should find a new printer.
Well, I did. So he asked what I did for a business, and I go, I'm in printing, but not that. But I just said, I wish I would have talked to you earlier, because I know places, offset places that are open.
Yeah.
But regardless, there are, as other businesses are open, those are going to be opportunities for garment decorators and screen printers and everybody like that. So I'm excited. I'm concerned. Yeah, PPP loans came out, and on that first wave, if you were a company, get them. They end next week, next week.
They end soon, right? And
yeah. Well, and you know what? We are a the company I work for, Easy Way. They're figuring out what do we do on it. It happens. It's part of it. We have to remember that you got to have a company to come back to, and you just can't keep funneling money out. It's a hard time. I get it. It's going to happen. I'm more excited about what's happening. Nobody wants to be laid off. Nobody wants to, have to lay off people. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult time. I don't own a business, but I'm trying to be compassionate to our managers and I say that because a bunch of them are watching right now. I've seen our marketing person and Easy Way, but these are tough decisions. If you are any type of a human being and you own a company and you're a manager, if you think they're not lamenting over this, staying awake at night, they are.
Owners, it's a tough role to have because you feel responsible for people, and it's a gut-wrenching thing. I mean, nobody takes this stuff lightly. By the way, we've got some comments, so let's get to those.
Well, one other thing too, if I could say, I'm seeing that there are shops. One pivoted; they are very much a sports and athletic. And early on, they had some corporate, and they pivoted. That's the one word after 2020 I never want to hear again is pivot.
Pivot?
They pivoted though to more corporate, more different, custom, more human to human, more business to business. And they said, it's going well. when they came back, they were busy. They had a bunch of orders. They've burned through those, and some are starting to reorder. But they said, Alan, the pipeline is filling, so they are very optimistic on that. And they said now in the fall, if sports comes back, because they do sports and equipment, then now they said we're kind of set, because now that's icing on the cake, and that's a very great thing. So that was exciting to hear.
Yeah. So Dan says Red Threads is a great example of some of the community support going on surrounding COVID and protests.
Absolutely.
I'm not really familiar what Josiah is doing. So what do you know?
Josiah Blackmore, and Dan, feel free to comment more. Josiah Blackmore, for everybody who doesn't know, is in Midland, Michigan. He was less than a half a mile away from the floods in Midland. And Josiah will say, and I will, by the grace of God, by call it karma, whatever, his shop is fine. His family is fine. His house is fine. His in-laws are fine. And Josiah was out there building dams and sandbags and stuff for all the people he cares about. But Josiah, if you've met him, is a very compassionate person. He immediately started on a support for Midland, the community, and just killed it. Just killed it out there. And Dan, I haven't seen what he's doing on the protest, but I'm not surprised that he's not doing something. So he has really been doing well with that. And he told me on some, is he making some money? It's that he told me the amount, I'm not going to say it. It's a very, very small amount. Josiah does this because Josiah cares.
Right.
And
he's a very earnest and empathetic guy.
He is. We need more Josiah Blackmores in the world, less Allen House, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I'm a better person because I know Josiah.
Right. So our friend Keith says, last week we were slammed, this week slowed way down. Next week looks pretty good. Still haven't brought everyone back. It's just been him working. And I think that's true for a lot of folks, Keith. So don't feel like you're alone in that. Yeah. And so that's good. And Daryl, who we love, Daryl, thanks for commenting here. It says, good here. Industries that work with their hands and use their backs are ordering. So these are service folks, mechanics, cleaners, delivery people, all those kind of folks are all like ramping up, and they never really slowed down because people still need their house built or repaired or whatever, right? So
in some states in Michigan, they did slow down. Landscapers and stuff were locked down for a while too, but they're back. But also, too, on a bigger note, the auto industry has been brought back like almost a month ago. So things are opening too.
Right. Well, I'm good to see that. And so the thing that I feel, and I was kind of joking around with somebody the other day, and it's like, and not joking about the riots, but it was like, seeing what's going on where everybody in such a confined space and they're all got their masks on. But, I think that just my gut feeling here is by July 4th weekend, we're either going to see lots of people in the hospital or whatever, or it's just going to be the end of the coronavirus pandemic and we're going to be back to just do what you want, right? Because it's either going to prove out that this is going to be a super dangerous thing and, oh my God, and there's going to be another wave and all this kind of craziness, or it's going to be, you know what? Maybe it wasn't such a big deal. And look just what happened everywhere in the country. All these people got together in a mass crowd. And I think that's either going to make people more uncomfortable or super comfortable, depending on how things pan out. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm praying it's the first that we don't have it, and hoping.
Oh yeah, nobody. I don't want anybody to get sick. I'm just observing what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that's been the whole thing with this whole year is we don't know. Our leaders and stuff, they're making guesses. I want to believe they're making educated guesses and trying, but we don't know. It's going to have to play out. Right. The scary thing is on our, I was looking on our local news and I got an update for Lapeer County, and I don't live in Lapeer County anymore. I live a half mile outside of it, but it said the first case of West Nile virus has been reported. I'm like, really? That's what it is now? No more murder hornets, now West Nile.
It's mosquito season, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And up here in Michigan, we don't worry about mosquitoes because black flies are the worst. They just eat them.
Oh,
Yeah. It's ugly.
right.
So,
Charles has a
but
question, Alan, and this is directed to you.
yeah,
What are your
that.
thoughts on mixing standard mesh with thin thread mesh? Is there a benefit to using thin thread with plastisol? And since you can't stretch thin thread to higher newtons as standard, is it worth having a mixture of the two and having a lower standardized tension, maybe like 28 newtons, for example, or would it be better to have all standard mesh and be in the 35 Newton range?
Well,
and I'm hiding this question because now nobody can see us.
Yeah, well, that's okay because you told me to leave my glasses on. My glasses are glaring on there. That's a great question, Charles. Thank you. Thin thread mesh. As soon as I say yes, it can't go to higher tensions. I do know a shop that brings everything to 35, thin thread, HD, and standard.
That's over time, just work hardening the screens, though, right?
Well, and there's a way called shock tensioning with roller frames, and that's what they do. So, sometimes in screen printing, as technical guys like me, we say, here's what the best practices are. And someone goes, well, I do this. Well, of course you do. Of course. The key, you kind of answered your own question. The key is having standards. So if you're going to go two meshes, there's nothing wrong with having standard meshes and S-thread meshes combined in your shop. I think the bigger question is, what are you trying to achieve? Because if you can use thin thread and keep it tensioned and keep it consistent, whether you're using plastisol or HSA water base or discharge, fine. Use it. If you're going to go thin thread, or standard, then do that. If you're going to go both, you need to make sure you have them marked well what each frame is, so they're not mixed up, and you have a system, an SOP for keeping those consistent of the tensions you come up with. So that's what I would do if you're doing that. The benefits are, well, with thin thread, as we talked before, we get a lot of these questions. I got it on Shirt Lab on the Q&A. Thin thread is just that. It's a thinner thread. It's a larger mesh opening in a thinner mesh thickness. So you should be able to get better opacity with less ink, but more areas laid down on. You still have to have, this is where basic screen printing fundamentals still come in. If you are not monitoring your tension and have crappy prints because your tension on your stretch and glue frames or your static frames or your track frames or roller frames are bad, and you go to a thin thread mesh, that might be a Band-Aid for a second, but you're still going to have the same problems. So make sure you have your SOPs and your fundamentals are checked, and you have your SOPs on each fundamental of that, and figure out why you want to go one or the other.
I think the thing to think about here, Charles, also is it's okay to experiment and goof around with stuff and play, right? So that's where innovation and creativity comes into play here. So how can you do something? Can you do it? Certainly you can, right? And just kind of set some experiments up for yourself. I've done a lot of that over the years where you just ask yourself, what if we did this? What would the results be? So it's kind of like a scientific experiment where you have a hypothesis and you test it, right? And so, just kind of play around with it and just see what you need to do. And if you want to, get more specified help, I'm sure Alan would be happy to help you with that.
Yeah, I would also, one question I thought of, because I know what our next subject is going to be down the line on there. And if Dan Solomon is still listening, I like I said, when he was talking about silicone, I'm learning. I knew a little bit about it. Mesh count, does standard thread, thin thread matter? Or does it help on that? That's something if he's gone already, I will end up chatting with him earlier or sending him an email and finding out. So.
Oh, you mean for what mesh
silicone.
used for silicone?
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a thin thread or a standard thread matters or makes a difference.
Oh, it is a good question. So Dan, help us out here, pal.
I'm assuming it doesn't, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to assume.
Right. So let's get to our second topic, excuse me, which is direct to garment, right? And so I am, I think 3 shops reached out to me this week about should they go into DTG and what to do and how to do it. And I'm not going to get into brands or any of that because we want to keep this a kind of a neutral place here. But what I do want to talk about is what people are doing with it. And so the reason why a lot of people are looking at this is because of online stores, fast returns, and then also dropping their costs and their labor rates, because with screen printing, you have so many steps. You got to make the screens, you got to register the stuff, you got to go on press, you got to do all that stuff. And if you've got smaller quantity orders, which is where a lot of this industry is moving, DTG is set up for that, because by the time you burn all those screens or whatever, you could have DTG'd those 12 shirts, right? So it's about increasing your workflow and that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that I've been helping people with this week is just getting the research done on should they buy the equipment. And so what I've been advocating is this year's kind of wonky, so just look at 2019. And then what you do is do an audit of your orders. How many of your orders are, let's just say under 50 pieces, right? That's prime DTG type area, right? And were they on darks? Were they on lights? How many colors were they? What was the turn time? What were what type of shirts are you printing? Dig into that information for the whole year. When are you ordering? What are you doing? Right? Do a survey of your existing stuff, right? Of course, we can design sales for the future, but if you were just to pivot, there's that word, Alan, pivot smaller orders into DTG, do you have enough, right, to pay for a DTG press, and the return on that investment is, let's just say 18 months, right? Do you have the existing work in house, right? It's an easy way to kind of just see what you have in front of you. What does that roadmap look like, right? And so that's kind of where I like to start people when they go down that avenue, is just with that. And I know, screen printers, they have this aversion to DTG because it's not their thing. But what I'm suggesting here is you look at it as, are you a business person? We're just decorating shirts. How we do that, there's different tools for that. Screen printing is a tool. DTG is a tool. Heat press is a tool. Dye sub is a tool. Are you using the right tool for what the results could be? Right.
I'm finding with screen printers that more of them have invested into that as they're looking at their markets and expanding their business, that they're not wanting to turn away business that could be done on DTG very easily, especially as we're looking more customization, more personalization in units of one. And I will credit that to better education from things like Shirt Lab, from seminars at the trade shows that are talking about, don't fear Amazon. What are they doing? Can you do that? Should you do that? But I think the key is you gotta know your market. If you're looking for a replacement of screen printing, it's not there. It's another tool. And the ones that have done that, I talked to a couple companies. One is the same on their pivot. That's one of them. They invested last year, and it's another market, and it's becoming bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Dan answered your question, by the way.
I saw that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Same as Platzasol. And Shane says, we're there on some type of poly. That is the big thing with DTG, right? So people are working on solving the polyester thing. You know, Kornit has their PolyPro printer. I've actually just printed on polyester shirts with a normal DTG, right? And it can look a little wonky depending on the color of the shirt.
Yeah.
Right. And remember, poly shirts are they really repel water, and DTG is a water-based ink. So you've got that, right? So you kind of have to look at that a little bit, but you can goof around and just see what you can do. So it's not a perfect thing. And I think as the manufacturers and stuff develop better systems and different stuff, you could see things in the future where one printer can print on any type of shirt because they have the right chemistry and systems built. Does that exist right now? It does, but there's a price tag for that. So
I think Image Armory might have a couple underbase or pre-treat solutions for.
Oh, do they? I'm not aware of that.
And Brian has showed me some shirts. He says it's not with every, to say it's on any and every polyester, but I think he's done some research and working on some stuff. So
okay,
I think it's there, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be in the pre-treatment. It's going to be difficult just because they're all water-based systems and polyester.
Right. So the thing to think about this, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, I think, is what are you doing? What are you selling? What is your market? Right. And then here's the other thing I want everybody to remember is your current customers don't have to be your future customers. You could be doing something completely brand new. Right. And so a lot of people get really hung up with I'm taking a shirt, I'm marking it up, I'm taking a decoration, I'm marking it up, and I can only sell this for $6 or whatever. Right. And other people are like, hey, I can do whatever I want. Nobody is dictating what I'm doing. And here's a really great case in point. Alan, do you remember the first ThreadX?
Yes.
Do you know where I'm going with this, right?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
So Tim Williams with YRC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He did a whole presentation about how he's getting over $100 a t-shirt in a DTG print. And it's because it's how he's marketing the shirt. It's limited edition. It's doing different things. And they just use Brother GTXs. So it's stuff that you have available to you. It's just how he's marketing it. Right. And so that's kind of the interesting thing here. And as decorators, we're always just tunnel focused into, hey, we have to compete with the bozos in our city. Right. And it's just about cost and its price. And I can't do that because nobody will buy it. Right. You have to invent your own platform. Right. And so this is just kind of a interesting way of thinking about that. And I think people need to explore this a little differently and maybe come up with a different business plan about what you're doing. Dan wants to go, if you have time, adding on to the thread mesh discussion, want to share some solutions on preventing moire. And I think we should describe what moire is because maybe people don't even know what that term means.
Yeah.
So moire, by the way, is that false pattern that you see in your print sometimes. So these are these little checkerboard look or the little bands that you see, and that's caused by the frequency distribution of halftones sometimes. And so it's a kind of a weird shift. And if you're still printing film and you're doing halftones and you put your film on your screen and you kind of tilt the film this way and that way, you see this little pattern that kind of emerge. That's moire, right? I don't think there's a better way of explaining that, Alan. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the threads in your line counts interfering with each other, causing another pattern. That's basically what it is. I have seen it once where it wasn't in the screen, and someone showed me a shirt and it was in the print of where it was coming from. So I had to go to people that knew way more than me. And so I sent the prints off to Lon Winters or Richard Greaves, and they both came back and said, That's moire, but it's not in the artwork. It's from the design in the weave of the shirt causing it.
Right.
So you have to go up or down on a mesh count.
Right.
Which I had never seen that. They said it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
Yeah, it's
So
just
that was interesting.
Frequency interference. That's what that is. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when you have different mesh counts, right, you have different things that can introduce that. So if you're having a moire challenge, right, remember what we do is all about eliminating variables.
Yeah.
Right. And so if the mesh count, the halftone frequency, these are all variables, right? Mm-hmm. So if you change a variable, you can eliminate a problem sometimes. And so you really have to kind of dig into that.
When you're creating, and this is by far not my expertise, is art. Thank you, Dan. You're hitting on like my weakest area.
It's a test today. What does Alan know?
What does Alan not know? Oh my gosh, a lot. He talks a lot about what he doesn't know. When you used to get your films, and back in the day, your artwork had to be sent out to be done and halftones done, and they would angle them at 22.5, I believe is what it was. Well, now you can do that online as you're doing your separations. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I find moire happens because people are using the wrong mesh count for the wrong line count.
Right.
And so the rule of thumb is 4.5.
Really? I've always used 4.
You almost want 4 is what the common thing is. If you go 4.5, because you want 2 threads and 2 spaces per dot.
Oh, okay.
The mesh count is why, but 4 is a hit. So yeah. So you want to always try to look at that and stay within those parameters. So
right. So Dan says just alternating mesh, even as 110 to 125, is going to break that up.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yeah, right. And so just kind of just topping this topic off, a lot of people, when they upgrade from film to a computer to screen system, a lot of the moire issues go away because you're not hand placing the film on the screen. Even with a pin registration and stuff, this can cause that problem. Mm-hmm. CTS units, of course, you're locking the frame into the machine, right? And then it finds it zeroes out, and then it starts, and it's perfectly 0-90 at all times, right? And so your moire issue typically just goes away completely. So, and by the way, instead of 22.5, I've always used 63.4 for simulated process and spot color subs. That's what I was taught like 1,000 years ago. So
again, I'm going. It's like we're hitting the very far edges, about ready to fall off the earth with me on that one. But
right.
You were the art director, so yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I've always, and I like a 50-line screen and an elliptical dot, not a round dot.
No, very few people use a round one anymore. It's usually.
Well, you never know what people use, right?
So we had a guy. I was in a shop and he was arguing. I didn't know a lot, and he was using a diamond dot. I'm like,
a diamond dot,
a diamond or a square. It was like idiot, and he would not listen.
Well, stochastic is square, right? So, yeah. All right. So, where are we on time? 9:30. All right. So, value add. What are you doing that's adding value, right? And the reason I wanted to bring this up was just because I think right now we're living in this crazy time. And this is all about competition. How are you competing? The value that you bring adds dollars to that order, right? So are you simply an order taker, right? What are you doing? Like, so this is really just kind of hitting a lot of different areas here. And so, Alan, what are your thoughts on how folks need to be adding value to what they do every day?
I always think in the screen print realm, because that's the circles I run in mostly. And I always go right to almost like a special effect. And special effects don't have to be scary. It could be simple as, instead of just a black outline, maybe doing a black shimmer around something to give it a little pop. There are things that, Rutland has a Crystalina. Wilflex's is a yellow sparkle, which is a clear with some sparkles in it. And you clear coat and put that over. And now you're creating a whole different image on a standard item that your competition is not. And these are not hard things to use. So it's something simple. And HTV, I've seen where they have, instead of doing a 2-color heat transfer vinyl on a shirt, well, maybe you go to what's called a strip flock, or they even have a high density one called the brick Caesar has. And I saw stuff with that, or an electric one, which is more of cool colors. And you start doing things like that, thinking outside of the box with your client's design, going, okay, they can do a 2-color design, black and white. Well, what if you jazzed it up a little bit and made it something really cool with something else that's not going to, cause any more production time to you? And it's not that difficult. I think on value added too, again, I'm going to go back to your conversation with Dan Solomon. Silicone ink, especially on jerseys and polyesters and stuff, the feel of it, the drape of it, of everything, it is a value added product and not difficult to use. Sometimes I think we all just get afraid of what we don't know. And you got to play, you got to do it, and it's not difficult.
Right.
So,
and it's not just the print, right? It's also value add is the things that you're doing to educating your customer. It's also like if you're doing, let's say you're doing something for a school, right? Are you bagging every single shirt with the kid's name on it? And
absolutely.
Each box is each homeroom class. And then there's a list of who's in the box on the top. Yeah. So when you deliver the shirts, it's all broken down and it makes it easy for people, right? These are the value adds that make us better than everybody else. And kind of the way you might think about this is, what do professionals do? What is the thing that you're adding to the recipe that goes beyond just the normal, average, everyday expectation of what you're delivering? And then for salespeople, right, like you included, right, it's coming by the shop and teaching and educating and showing people how to use things properly and just being there for people, and you've said it a million times, in today's world, anybody can order online, right? Yeah. And thousands of people do. But if you want to add more value, it's all about building relationships and nurturing and helping people and all that kind of stuff. That's where the value is added, I think, these days. And that creates customers that are going to last forever because they appreciate that kind of stuff.
Also, too, on your marketing and online, it's ease of use. If you are making things difficult to order, it's ease of use. I hear from clients and end users that, through their companies, their sources that they have, if it is difficult for them to get products and work with you, it's gone. If you have a website and you have an e-commerce store, but it is difficult and they have to keep going through 1,000 things to get it done, that ease of use to get in and get out, that's going to be value to people. So.
Right. So a lot of times it's clarity too, right? So, in the book Story Brand, Donna Miller says, if you confuse, you lose. So,
True.
So our value here sometimes is just simplifying things so people can understand it, right? So that could be with a good, better, best scenario. That could be with some sort of bundling. That could be really identifying things. And, in the last week, we've had our Shirt Lab Summit, right? And so there's a couple folks in there that were talking about promo, right? And I think here, as a value to folks, you could be talking about, let's say you serve the athletic markets or schools or whatever, right? So what are the promo products that work with that? And so if you were identifying it's that water bottle or that yoga mat or that Padfolio or whatever it is, and you research and find the ones that you really like, that's available, that's a good price, that type of stuff, and you have those already built when somebody asks you that question, or you can say, hey, are you going to be doing this also? Maybe we can add it to your order. These are things that you're supplying them with ideas, and you're helping them. You're adding more value. And I think this really kind of transcends just the McDonald's order taking system. Hey, you want fries with that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I
so
think there's a lot of
comments, hey, please, if you're watching us, leave a comment about how you add value to your customers and what you do. I'm very interested in kind of just seeing what's going on with folks and getting you guys to engage in this a little bit. Or if you have a question, put that in there too.
And I think everybody's looking for that. We've all been locked down in time frames, and everybody's become an expert, doing video and stuff. But I know, Poly One has been doing great tips and stuff on there, and that's value added on there.
Right.
We've been throwing video and blogs and everything up, not just me, but the whole team has been, and some great stuff. So yeah, I'd love to hear what everybody's doing for value. And even sometimes before pandemic, there were people doing things where they have an order and all of a sudden there's some free stickers with the same logo on it. Just little value. We appreciate your business right there.
Right.
A hat, something like that. And yeah, and that's a great way to say, hey, by the way, did you know we do this? And they may go, well, we never even thought about that.
Right.
But even if they don't, little value added.
I want to see that. I want to see the value add from you of you catching a fish this week.
I'm actually going to be leaving this afternoon. I have not been doing well fishing this year. I don't know what the deal is. So,
well, you got to hold your tongue a certain way.
I am. Everybody fishes different. I am a guy, I just don't relax fish. When I was younger, I used to fish some local bass tournaments, and fishing to me is hunting underwater. So I'm not one to talk. I don't drink beer while fishing. I have polarized glasses. I'm watching everything. I am watching what's happening on the waves. I'm watching for what vegetation and weed lines I have. I'm watching how do I know what's going on under the water? We'll watch your landscape. And if I see a point coming out, I know that point comes out. So it can be relaxing and while it is, but it can be stressful too. And I've not been doing well. So
yeah. Well, that's funny. I've been fishing a bunch of my life and I'm the exact opposite, right? So
yeah,
I'm the guy with the beer in the hand that's chatty Cathy the whole time. And we would hate each other probably if we were fishing together.
Yeah. So Dan Solomon just put, Dan fishes too on the west side, him too. I would love to go fishing with him because we probably wouldn't speak to each other the whole time. We're just fishing. And I'm okay with that. That'd be a great day. Dan said, I love that. Hope to be on Erie soon. I'll pick you up on the way through. Dude, I'll meet you. Let's go. I'm leaving now. Got to go, Marshall. Let's go. I am so there. A little walleye going.
Right. So let's finish up today with this. Marketing, and I wrote this morning, is the act of creating a customer, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they do ads and whatever they think about marketing as just like it's some kind of post or something. There's a lot of mixed feelings about marketing, but for me, like the things that you do that create customers are marketing. Right. Yeah. And this is education. This is everything. And one of the things, in fact, I've wrote a blog article about this, where your accountants cannot control your marketing because they don't understand it. Right. And so it's because sometimes the things that we do don't have an instant payoff.
Yeah.
Right? And because we're building customer relationships and we're building this kind of stuff. And so a lot of marketing is just simply showing up and doing things. And then that builds that kind of rapport you have. And of course, the sales cycle, as we all know, is know, like, trust, buy, right? So they have to know about you. They have to like what you do. They have to trust you in some way. And if you have those first three things, when it comes time to buy, they'll buy from you, right? But those first three things, that's all marketing, right? So a lot of times the marketing things that we do, don't show up in an instant sale, right? But it's still very necessary for you to do those. What do you think about that, Alan?
I always called it the principle of 7 touches. Very rarely, if I got an order, if I walk into somebody's shop or I just meet them for the first time and they want to place a huge order, I'm almost on guard. What's going on here? It doesn't happen that way. It does sometimes. But, there is a meeting, there is an email, a Facebook blog, something that is encouraged, and then it becomes the principle of 7 touches to where they just trust you. And I'm still back into people buy from people they like. And it still comes down to easy use. Then when there is a problem, because there will be a problem, we live in an imperfect world. I'm an imperfect person. And there will be a problem. When those little problems, they know they can trust you to fix it and make it right and get it going. It's when those problems start becoming continuous that it becomes almost exhausting and exasperating for a client.
Right.
But I agree 100% on it. Marketing is something you can be the best at what you do. And if no one knows, then you're still the best. Just no one knows about it.
Well, let me tell you, I think
it
used to be, Alan, and I'll see if you agree with this. So it used to be in this industry, you could be the best screen printer or the best embroiderer or the best artist or whatever, and people would flock to you because you have that skill. And these days, I think a lot of people have that skill. And if you think that people are just going to come find you because you're a great printer, I think you're delusional. I think you need to be aggressively going out there and getting customers there's so much more you got to do with that marketing. And if you're just relying on the fact that, hey, I'm open, you have that field of dreams mentality where if we build it, they will come. I think you're going to be dead in the water. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's true because you and I know people that I think in my lifetime were the best printers, and especially in North America, maybe the top 5 in the world, and that was Andy Anderson and Mark Coudray. Now, you won't hear them say that, but I'm going to say that and say it proudly. And they both would say, and Mark has done that, if I would have spent more time back then on Mark was the best of what he did, more time and taken at least minimum 25% instead of being, if I print it better than anybody else, they will come into marketing. Then when, coming through disaster makes it a little bit easier. When there is that pandemic, when there is that economy turn, when there is that medical catastrophe in your family. And if you don't know, that's what happened to Mark. It was all of them. And life comes at us. Life is rough and we can't control that stuff. And if you're not marketing and doing that, you can be the best promo guy. You can be the best guy at it. And if you're going off, I do it better than anybody in my community. Now, and you're not marketing, you're not adding value added. You just think they're going to keep coming to you. That's thin ice, baby. Andy Anderson, same way. He's retiring. His place is up for sale. And he just said, with the pandemic, so I just don't have the strength to go on. He's in his mid-60s. He has other things he does on the side. And he just said, if I was younger, I would have done it, and I would have done it different. I would put a big part into that. There's over 100 Golden Image Awards for color process and simulated process.
Right.
So that to me speaks volumes. When I hear guys that I think are 2 of the top 5 in the world, maybe in their time, and even now top 10, and they're saying, I should have done it. And Mark has. That's why Mark Coudray does what he does. If nobody knows that speaks and is screaming from the mountaintop. So
right.
Yeah.
So we got some comments here. Sam says, during these couple of months, the focus has been about communication and transparency with customers. I definitely see my suggestions go a bit farther after some long phone calls versus a quick visit. Alan, I even pushed some extra easy way today. How about that?
Well, Sam Bollinger works for T&J Supply. He's one of my Easy Way distributors, lives in Lansing, Michigan. You know what? Pushing more easy way will cover a multitude of sins. Let's just no. I appreciate it, Sam.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Daryl says, "Make it simple to business. It matters."
Absolutely,
it does matter. Thanks, Daryl. And so, marketing, that's kind of like turn the corner on that, and what is branding? Branding to me is building an emotional link to your customer. It's how they feel about you. It's that emotional thing, right? Mm-hmm. So marketing is about creating a customer. Like branding is about building that bond. It's about that personal connection. It's about what you do, right? So, so kind of think about that with your shop and how you're thinking about that. And for me, these days, everything needs to be about that human to human connection. You need to show your face. You need to tell your origin story. You need to talk about, the Simon Sinek thing, start with why. Why are you in business? Yep. Why are you doing that? Why are you, what's going on with that, And I think that really matters. If I go to your About Us page, am I hearing that story from you? Or am I understanding that? Or is it just like, here's my address, right? And so what are we doing here with that? And I think that really kind of helps you sort of just frame that.
And if you're not quite sure in your business how that fleshes out, if you're not grabbing that, think in your own personal life, because I was thinking of my business and all that, Marshall, and our business, but I just made a purchase. We're back to fishing. So I have not been doing well fishing, and one of my rods and reels that I use combination, I broke a rod that was a St. Croix rod, and Dan will understand this. He fishes. St. Croix is a pretty good rod. I broke it. I was furious. And no, it wasn't hauling in a big fish.
Did you sit on it? How'd you break it?
I was putting it in the car and closed the door and the tip on it.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a cheap rod. So I needed a new casting rod. I wanted a 7 foot medium heavy casting rod, and there's different for bait casting reels and spin casting reels. And so I was at a bait shop just because I love small independent ones over the weekend, and they had a rod there called Halo. Halo's not well known, but there's a connection with me and Halo. Dan Solomon, Cardor, absolutely. Halo, I hired a fishing guy in Florida, Marshall, you appreciate, on Lake Okeechobee, which Okeechobee is one of the classic huge big bass lakes years ago. And my guide was a guy named Ken Woods, Boo Woods he's called. He fished bass tournaments. I've seen him on TV and stuff like that. So it was great. So he was sponsored by Halo. So he gave me one of his, and we were sitting there talking and doing it. And I really liked the rod and reel combination. So I saw a Halo rod. I bought it. Better look at the prices. I'm getting up there. Luckily, it was affordable for what it is. But that's the connection right there. There was a connection to that brand on there. So think about what you buy. There's certain things we all buy. Why do you buy that one thing? And then move that to it's a long story, but move that to your business.
Well, I think that's an important story, because we all make decisions in what we purchase and how we consume things and what we do, and also what we drop, right? We quit using something. And a lot of times it's because they hacked you off in some way, right? Or you weren't getting the value that you thought that you were going to get, or whatever. There's some reason why stuff happens. And, and so we all do that. And I think we can use those lessons that we have in our own business and retool them and spin them, for what we're doing in marketing and how we're kind of building things. Right. And, so like for me, we just did our Shirt Lab Summit, and Tom and I spent a lot of time talking about adding value, right, and what we're doing. And so that's why we did like the Q&A stuff. And we also did extra little presentations in the Shirt Lab group. And there's a lot of things that we did that we didn't have to do, right? We didn't have to do those things. But what we're trying to do is just create more interest, create more customers, do that kind of stuff. And those were all purposeful driven things, right? So, all right, where are we on time? We got about 5 minutes to wrap up here.
Hey, let's talk real quick shows.
Yeah, we were going to do that at the beginning, and how did we skip that over? Because we had a whole discussion about it.
Because we got talking about fishing in Michigan.
Oh, okay. So if you don't know, some shows I think are going to open back up on the latter part of the year. So Alan, why don't you kind of lead with that?
So Printing United Alliance, which is SGIA, the expo in Atlanta, that's still going on. There was a press release went out. That is still going on.
And that's October 20th or 22nd or something.
Something like that. I just got word that DAX Chicago is still going on. They've been in touch with Tinley Park with the place that it has, and protocols are being put in place. I don't know what they are. I understand that Impressions Atlantic City, I think, is still going on, and so is Fort Worth. And if that's the case, I'd love to know, what are everybody's thoughts on it? Marshall, what are yours?
Well, for me, I am not going to be traveling to these shows, even though I'm a speaker at the ISS ones. I've told them I've canceled for this year, and it's a financial thing for me. Absolutely. And so my consulting business is, I still have stuff. I'm still doing things, but I am reeling from the pandemic and what's going on. And a lot of my stuff is really, frankly, kind of dried up a little bit. Hey, please support me by buying my new book, Moving Past Disaster. But, so it's just one of these things where I simply go into these things is, by the time you buy an airfare and plane ticket and some meals and whatever, it's over $1,000 to go. And I'm just not going to do that. 2021, I'll be at everything. 2020, not so much. And so it's like one of these things I have to make a decision about that based on what's going on. I would probably feel comfortable about going, wearing a mask and hand sanitizer and some wipes and stuff in my book bag, right? But
which I think is smart.
A financial thing, right?
And you know what? That's smart anyways. I have hand sanitizer in my car. I have 2 masks in my car. I have gloves in my car. So yeah,
right. Well, when I go to shows, I have a bottle of Purell.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I use it all the time because, I've been in the men's room. I'm the only one who washes my hands, I think. So it's like it's sticky and gross, and I shake lots of hands, and so I am always hand sanitizing somewhere, right? And but now it's even more so with what's going on, I think, right?
Well, and I think the other thing you said, the financial aspect. So my question is, what are the suppliers doing? I go to shows most of the time because the company I work for, I don't think Easy Way knows. We're scheduled for some. It's a whole next normal.
Right.
Who knows? Right. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm supposed to speak at Fort Worth. Aside from the one with you, I have another one. I'm not sure what's going on. It's going to be weird. I wonder how many of you in your area, that are listening, if a show went later in the afternoon or later in the year, would you go?
Right. Leave a comment.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Sam said, any word on NBM Indy?
I haven't heard anything, but I haven't checked either.
Yeah, we don't know. So I guess it's kind of a stay tuned thing, I guess. I can't wait until I can see all my friends. I mean, let's be honest, half the reason I want to go is just to hang out with everybody. So,
That was, I think, and I know you don't want to bring up, that was the best part of Shirt Lab. Man, the whole virtual thing for me was just being there. Not the live ones, the one you just did.
The summit.
The summit was awesome. I think things like that have been incredible. It gives us a sense of together. It gives us a sense, I can still see people virtually. We all talk. Marshall and you and I talk at minimum once a week, and usually a couple times.
Right.
We are still a community. Yes, we compete in some areas, and yes, we think it's a big area industry. It's really not. When one person hurts, we all do. And maybe this is something I'll bring up. This is stressful times for all of us. I've had my meltdowns. I've done things that are out of character. And I have friends. Marshall called me and just go, hey, don't know if you're seeing this. Are you out of your freaking mind? And I appreciate that in your friendship. There's a lot of things going on. And if somebody is struggling, just going with everything between pandemic and business and PPP loans and murder hornets and protests and stuff.
Right. It's really easy to get heavy, right?
We are still friends. We don't have to agree. If that is there, my phone number, I have 1,000 ways to contact me. You are welcome to come to my house. You are welcome to call me. I'm there. This is a stressful time for everybody. And I've had those of you that have reached out to me, in Michigan, Dan, you're here, all of us. I had 1,000 people texting me, am I all right? And I was nowhere near that. And you have no idea how much that is. 33 years of doing this, it's like another family, and I appreciate it. So,
right. Yeah. And so Dan says he's evaluating week by week. As Marshall says, by the way, 1 L is the sheriff, 2 L's is me. Says July is going to be a big data point. Charles planning on going to Printing United and hopefully impressions Long Beach. I'll be in Long Beach. Hopefully they don't get canceled.
Printing United is still going on. Yep.
And that's it, Marshall. I would go knowing my friends from across the country were going. So it's really about, if like somebody has to say I'm going.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if you post, hey, I'm going, maybe other people would go. If you keep it a secret, you might be there by yourself.
Yeah.
So,
and like Dan said, week by week, I got to see what EasyWay's doing. Dax, I could drive there on my own if I need to, and I might. And if I'm going, I will post that. I think it's every day. Week by week, Dan posted to July is going to be a big data point. It is. As a supplier, Dan works for a manufacturer. I work for a manufacturer. I don't know how Poly One's seeing it. We have all of a sudden the last week and this week, we are starting to see more, and we go by dealers as people, end users are ordering from their dealers. Then we start getting stock replacement, and we're starting to see a little bit more of that. So,
it's, I think a lot of also, for trade shows, right, you have to look at the health and safety. And so for a company, they're sending their top salespeople, they're sending their managers, they're sending their staff. If companies don't feel that it's safe, right, you can't have the brain trust of the company all in the hospital, right? That's not going to help that company. So I think unless people have the trust that there's something there that's going to help with that, that's going to be the deciding factor. And I think just seeing what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks to a month or whatever really is going to give us that gut check feeling, right? Oh, and Dave Bowling posted, Printing United is still on our schedule. Employee health and safety is our biggest concern right now. Exactly my point.
Yeah.
Right. And then your company says you're evaluating, but this time we're still on for Fort Worth, Printing United, and Atlantic City.
But yeah, exactly. Evaluate. And I think that's where everybody is. And every company, not everybody's like me. Marshall, you're an individual. Dan Solomon's an individual. Dave Boulding, who's from NASDAQ, they have people under them and stuff. And I think if a company decides to go, it used to be, here's the show schedule, clear schedule, everybody, here's who on the list, go.
Right.
Now you have to be going, do you feel comfortable going too? If a company decides to go.
Right.
And we have to be cognizant of that. And it's just reality in the next normal. So
here's the question. So the trade shows, are they going to be, so Mr. Trade Show, if you're watching, what are you doing that's going to attract people to the show to get them out of their shell and want to show up.
Yeah.
Right. I think you can't, and my gut says you can't just be the normal trade show that everybody's used to. Right. There has to be something there for people to really get them to, like, I think I'll go to that one. Don't you feel? I mean, that like rings true to me. I don't know what that could be. Right. But there needs to be something for that.
Yeah. I think what Keith said almost is it. If a trade show was just there, if people are going to a show just to see their buds, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, flying across country going, if there's with the protocols and stuff, it better be darn good. Besides that, if you're just counting on people because we're open, it will come.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. You better have something attractive. Peter just put something very interesting.
Oh, M&R is out of Atlantic City, FESPA, and Printing United still under review. Okay, well, there you go.
And
right?
you know what?
October is the way, right? But think about for M&R about what they bring. I mean, holy crap, their booth is like $1 gazillion with all the stuff that they bring. That I would imagine, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're going to participate, maybe it's going to be on a condensed, smaller scale. You're not bringing the whole circus, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, it's still under review, he said, for Printing United. So yeah.
Well, if they do that, right? So are they going to do something that's maybe a little smaller? Are they going to, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, and they're going to do the normal thing, right? I mean,
it's going to be a 10 by 10 booth. Peter will be in there with catalogs.
Right. And here's the other thing: if you are a supplier and you're going, right, I would think that if you do something that's a little more, like we were just talking about, value add, if you're doing something that's just above what everybody else is doing, here's where you're going to stand out.
Right.
And I don't know what that is, right? But I think if you're going to do it, what can you do that's just beyond what everybody normally does? Yep. And maybe that's for the people who do go, that makes it worthwhile that they went.
Absolutely.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either. None of us do.
But
we don't know what it looks like.
Right. Well, it's the next normal thing. Oh, and Easy Way says, additional, how are booths going to attract people differently? People will be more hesitant to visit your booth.
Not our booth. Their Easy Ways talk about other booths. Everybody loves coming to our booth. We're just saying that for everybody. Yeah, great question. I don't know.
So in the past, when I was going for equipment purchases, how many are really going to buy right now? Maybe the deals will be super.
Maybe, the other thing though, Keith, I'm still hearing there are still capital purchases being made. People now are looking, going, all right, what do I have to do about labor? What do I have to do?
Well, here's
and there are big machines I've seen being bought.
Well, here's the thought. Maybe it's more education, right? So if you're interested in buying a DTG press, can you jump on and load some shirts? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you having a class about how to pre-flight the art? I mean, so it's just more than what you normally do, where just the sales guy standing there going, here's the bells and whistles, right? I don't know. So.
Yeah.
All right. So we're a little over, and
bonus time. Good bonus time though.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I just saw Easy Ways post on that last comment. I'm going to make my company stop watching. Make me laugh.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and Alan and I were talking about this earlier, and this has to do with somebody we know in the industry that some tragedy happened, and I don't want to go into everything, but I want everybody to know that I'm here for you. If you are struggling, if you I make my money by talking to people, but I'm talking if you need help, right? I'm not charging you. Just please call me, right? Or email me or something. I'm here for you. I want you to know that, you've got a friend in me, even if we've never met and we've never done anything before. just please reach out. Don't feel
Absolutely.
like you're alone and you're struggling and you don't have anywhere to turn and all of that. I'm here. I would love to chat with you. Well, I'll make time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Alan feels the same way. I don't want to speak for him, but I know he feels.
No, absolutely. The person that passed, we're not going to say his name. We don't need to get into that. I think most of you might know it if you've not met him. I know Peter knows him and everything. Yeah. So it's one of those things you're going, wait, what? But yeah, we're here. That made me think. We can agree, disagree on a lot of things. We are human beings on this rock, and we've been put in the same industry. Let me know anything I can do.
There's my email, marshall@marshallatkinson.com, and here's Alan's, ahal@easyway.com. We're here for you people, all right?
Yep.
And we appreciate everybody. And so I don't want to end this thing with a downer kind of a deal, but it's one of these things that we had to say something. So.
Way to go, Dave Boulding. End it with that. Put Dave Boulding's post up there.
Go fishing this weekend, break a rod or something, free your soul. Exactly.
We'll end with that. David, you're a good man. I miss seeing you.
I'm going to be in the pool with a margarita, I think. Right? So.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you. See ya.
Yeah.